Hello, my name is Allison Carmen, and welcome to my podcast, 10 Minutes to Less Suffering. And the name of today's podcast is Do You Believe You Live in a Friendly or Hostile Universe? And as most of you know, this is taken from the quote by Albert Einstein, where he said, the most important decision we make is whether we believe we are living in a friendly or a hostile universe. And I started to think about this a lot this week because the 2025 World Happiness Report came out. And in the report, they talk about this experiment that was done around the world. Wallets were dropped everywhere with different amounts of cash. And the interesting part of the experiment is that when people were asked whether or not a stranger would give a wallet back, the belief of what people would do versus what people actually did was quite different. People returned other people's wallets with cash in them twice as often as people believed what would happen, saying that there was more trust and goodness out there than was perceived. And then in the report, they said, based on their studies, life satisfaction correlates more strongly with trust than income, employment, or education. It's not just what we have, it's what we believe about the people around us. When I read this, this really made me pause because what it's saying is that people we don't know are more trustworthy than we believe. And this belief that people are not trustworthy adds to our unhappiness. So if you go back to Albert Einstein's statement, the most important decision we will make is whether we believe we live in a friendly or hostile universe. Did he know this? Did he know that our perception of what we live in, how connected it is with the life that we live in? If you think about it, it's not just connected with our joy. It's connected with our business relationships. It's connected how we act every day, no matter what we do. Can I trust this? Can I trust this person? Can I trust this situation? And actually reminded me of a woman that I used to represent. And she had a very successful business, but she trusted nobody. She was always telling me, Allison, I know that I'm going to get cheated in this contract. I'm going to get cheated in this relationship. And so we were always arguing contract points. And I totally understood you need to protect yourself in the business world. But I also know at the end of the day, every business relationship you have is based on trust. No matter what contract you have, you are trusting the other person to do what's right. And without that, you are always in pain. And I think she didn't make relationships that she could have made. You know, sometimes when we're working with someone, you create a relationship, they become a long-standing client. And she had more short-term relationships than a lot of my other clients. But I think she also limited everything that could be because she was always believing that she lived in a hostile universe. And I remember also facing this idea when my husband left me. I remember there was this moment where I had to make a decision. Was this event in my life going to make me a non-trusting person? If you think about it, I shared everything with this man. We shared our finances, we shared our life, we shared our kids. The person I trusted the most left, and he took so much with him. And I remember feeling that pain of not trusting. And of course, I had to process my pain. I had to deal with everything that happened. But I remember deciding one day, I cannot live like this. I can't live thinking everybody's going to screw me over. Everyone's going to deceive me. Everybody's going to leave me. I didn't want to live in that kind of world. And I made the decision that no matter what happens, I trust that I will figure it out and be okay. So in a way, I found more trust from the outside world by finding inner trust. Because often you can't know how a situation is going to turn out. You could only do your best. You could try to be smart about it. You could make the best contract. You must listen to your instinct. But if you carry all that past baggage with you, then it will suck the joy and happiness out of your life. And this study actually shows it. And sometimes it's very challenging because we hear all these bad things happening in the world. So how do we do that? How do we manage all the things we hear about, and how do we live our life? How do we trust in the goodness and the kindness of others? Because we know when we don't, there's so much negativity and hurt and worry within us. On the other hand, we don't want to be fools that walk around and don't take care of what we need to take care of. So for me, how I've dealt with this over the years is the first thing, of course, is I had to process the pain of the hurt that I had. One of the closest people in my life betraying me, leaving me, lying to me, undoing everything that I thought was real in my life. And someone might say, wow, how do you get through that? I get through that because he's not everyone. And I decided to turn to self-trust. And I think that's the most important thing that we need to do in order to be a more trusting person in this world. We first have to trust ourselves. We have to believe that we have what it takes, that we could survive the pain, that we could handle the things that happen in our lives and get through it. And once you have that knowing within you, once you make that decision, then everything in your life changes. And sometimes I actually use the maybe practice as well, because a lack of self-trust is an inner uncertainty. So instead of being afraid of what the future would bring, I was afraid I didn't have what it takes to handle disappointment, to handle someone deceiving me, to handle getting hurt again. But then I asked myself, are you absolutely certain that thought's true? And no, I could not be certain of anything. And maybe I was more capable than I imagined. And maybe I was able to do it. And maybe I could take one day at a time. And that is how I built my self-trust. And then once you start to realize that you can trust yourself, you become more connected with your heart. And then your intuition kicks in and it is real. If you're not doubting yourself, you are more connected with yourself. And so you will have feelings and knowings about things you can do and that you can't do, because they're not coming from paranoia. They're not coming from past pain. They're coming from a place that you know no matter what you face, you will be okay. And that means that when you're feeling your intuition and it's telling you go forward, don't go forward, you can trust that because that is your voice. And the third thing that I do, I look at it from my mind in a very practical lens. I am not worried about getting hurt. My intuition tells me it's a good idea. And then I look at it. I look at the business terms. I look at the person's past. I look at how I'm feeling. I look at everything. But because I don't have that fear, I trust that I will make a good decision. If it's a business agreement, do I make contracts? Of course. If it's a personal situation, might I move slowly? Yes. But I don't let this idea that I live in a bad, hostile universe because someone really hurt me in the past to hold me back. I know on the days that I believe I live in a friendly universe, I am so much happier. Think about how you feel when you think the world is against you. Think about how you feel when you believe you can't trust people in your lives. When you look for the worst in people. When you look for the worst in people, you will find it. But we forget that people also have really good qualities. And when you look at them, you find common ground. When you look at them, you find things you can trust. When you look at them, you find a path to moving forward. Don't let all the things that have happened before in your life make you not trusting, make you afraid, make you not move forward. So take your self-trust, take your presence, take your intuition, take your practicality, see how it fits into your life, and figure out a way to move forward. Because the truth is, many of us would give the wallet back with the money. There are a lot of beautiful people in this world. We might differ in opinion, but many of us have the same heart. And we all know our job is to love the world into tomorrow. But in order to do that, we need to see the universe as a little kinder and a little friendlier, as a place where we can succeed, as a place that will be kind to our children, as a place where people are giving and kind and loving and not all bad. When we start to trust ourselves, we move out into the world and we find out there are more people that we could trust. We gain relationships, we expand, we start new businesses, we start new love relationships, we become more hopeful, we become more communal. And together we could all believe that maybe the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening to this podcast today. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can email me at allison@allisoncarmen.com. If you'd like to buy my books, The Gift of Maybe, A Year Without Men, Maybe Everything's Okay, A Parent's Guide to Less Stress and Worry, you could find them at all major bookstores and online retailers. If you'd like to buy my Maybe cards or my Maybe journal, they're available on Amazon, Etsy, and my Stand store. And most of all, if you like this podcast, I hope you subscribe and leave a comment.